We all knew this festive period was going to have a huge impact on the automatic promotion race, and Leeds have really thrown their hat back in the ring with an emphatic victory over Ipswich this weekend. In today's video, we're going to be having a closer look at Leeds and Ipswich, especially on the back of that early kick-off, what it could mean for the promotion race, and now heading into this second half of the championship season. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Any Leeds or Ipswich fans who are watching this one, get your thoughts down below and let's jump in. From the off in this game, Leeds looked really up for this fixture, and for whatever reason, Daniel Farke has had Kieran McKenna's number this season. They've obviously played each other twice now, and it's 8 goals in total Leeds have put past Ipswich, but from the off, it did look like Leeds were going to be the aggressors in this match. There were a couple of moments with Dan James on that right-hand side looking like a real outlet, but that entire Leeds United forward line were all on song for this one, and there were times where Ipswich really just couldn't breathe, a few sloppy passes being given away in midfield. But once again, I think you have to credit Leeds with the intensity they came into this fixture with, knowing how important it was for them to close the gap to the top two. And I mean, looking at some of the stats, it's absolutely crazy. Leeds completely nullifying Ipswich from an attacking aspect, Ipswich not having a single shot on target throughout the entire 90 minutes of this one, accumulating only an XG of 0.12, by far the lowest that Ipswich have managed so far this season. And once again, that is a real testament to Leeds. Now, it is worth saying that second half, I think both teams somewhat took the foot off the gas. Leeds probably could have scored more goals, obviously hit the bar and went close on a few occasions, but with how thick and fast the games are going to come through this festive period, I think both managers realised that, okay, well, this game's probably done and dusted. We'll hold a few players back for the Boxing Day games now, but what that will do for Leeds' confidence is absolutely huge. Once again, Somerville being absolutely unplayable down that left-hand side. As things stand, without doubt, one of my favourite, if not my favourite players to watch in the Championship. From a creative aspect, he's absolutely brilliant. He's a sharp shooter, took his penalty really well. He's so explosive and is just an absolute nightmare for opposition fullbacks to go ahead and pick him up. I think it was a rare off day for Kieran McKenna's side, and ultimately they have to just get this out of their system as soon as possible. It's a huge game that they've got coming up next, and they can't afford to have this lingering in the background of them. They'll want a fast start against Leicester with that home crowd behind them as well, and I wouldn't expect anything less from Kieran McKenna's side. What is also worth pointing out is, as well as this bringing Leeds right back up and amongst it in terms of the automatic promotion race, also really brings Southampton back into the frame as well. Now, I am recording this before the 3 o'clock kickoffs, but if Southampton take advantage of their next fixtures, they could really go along with Leeds in this ride and closing the gap on Ipswich, and suddenly the Tractor Boys could have a couple of sides on their tails. So on the back of that result, looking at Leeds' upcoming fixture list, this is where I really think they could start to build some momentum. We've certainly seen it from Daniel Farke's sides in the past, in his previous 2 promotion seasons with Norwich, how they gained momentum throughout the season. And looking at their upcoming fixtures here, I really think there's a chance they go on a good, consistent run of form. Their next 10 matches see them going up against Preston, West Brom, Birmingham, Cardiff, Preston again, Norwich, Bristol City, Rotherham, Swansea and Plymouth. A lot of the sides they take on during that run of games are out of form at the moment and would be games that I'd be expecting Leeds to win. I think the trickiest games they've got during that run are West Brom away. Norwich at home could cause them some problems, and maybe Bristol City and Plymouth as well. But generally speaking, other than that trip to West Brom, I'd expect Daniel Farke's side to be winning the majority of those matches, especially with the firepower they've got in their ranks. After that fairly favourable run of 10 fixtures, they then have a game against Leicester at home on the 24th of February in what could be another promotion decider for Leeds. We're obviously halfway through this championship season now, and that's a decent sample size of games to draw upon and extrapolate some data from. As things currently stand, Leeds have averaged 1.95 points per game in their championship matches in the first half of the season. When averaged over an entire campaign, that would be worth 90 points, which is 1 less than Sheffield United finished with last season, and they obviously secured that second place spot, and 11 points worse off than Burnley were last time to win the championship. Now, in a lot of championship seasons, 90 points would be enough to get you over the line for automatic promotion, but in this campaign it doesn't seem like that'll be the case, especially with Ipswich and Leicester both on target for over 100 points as things stand. What is worth taking into consideration though for Leeds is, one, if they can slightly increase the margins on their points per game in this second half of the season, and whether or not we will see a slight dip from both Leicester and Ipswich in this second half half of the campaign. I don't think anyone expected Ipswich to have this many points on the board at this stage of the campaign, and what's been absolutely remarkable about them so far is whenever they've lost a game, they've always responded by going on an extended winning run. For example, when they lost that game against Leeds earlier in the season, they followed it up by winning 9 of their next 10 matches. And when they lost that game away at West Brom in November, they followed it up by winning 4 of their next 5 matches. If that sort of pattern continues, then it would be quite tough to see Leeds matching them for the second half of the season. But when looking into Ipswich's fixture list for the upcoming months, I do think they have a few more hurdles to jump over than Leeds do, and this is where they can really look to close the gap. So we just went over Leeds' next 10 fixtures. In comparison, this is what Ipswich are working with over these next couple of months. They've got games against Leicester, QPR, Stoke, Sunderland, Leicester again, Rotherham, Preston, West Brom, Millwall and Swansea. And for me personally, I think that's a much tougher run-in where Ipswich will be tested more than Leeds will be. Now don't get me wrong, the Championship is utterly bonkers and unpredictable, where Leeds will drop points even when they have a favourable run, and Ipswich will come through a lot of these tough games as they've already done so far this season. What could be a real blow for Ipswich during that quite tough run as well is if they do lose players to AFCON and the Asia Cup. Sam Morsy, especially if he is selected for Egypt in their AFCON campaign, I think he'll be a real blow to lose them, especially for those tricky fixtures coming up in January. But what this does for me is it sets up an absolute cracker on Boxing Day where Ipswich take on Leicester City, and I'm sure every single Leeds United fan will be watching that game closely. What I think is a real boost for Leeds on Boxing Day is the fact that they are the early kickoff in a fixture they're the massive favourites for against my side, Preston. Don't think any Preston fan is particularly looking forward to this one, especially if Leeds start out with the same intensity that they did against Ipswich. I think they could have an absolute field day against Preston. Preston, a side who are badly out of form right now. You know, we've only won 3 of our last 16 matches. Both Leicester and Ipswich got the better of us earlier in the season by each putting 4 goals past us, and I wouldn't put it past Leeds from doing the same. And I think that if they do get themselves into an early lead at Deepdale, the atmosphere around the ground really won't be good from the home fans. If they do get an emphatic win in that game, suddenly it does put that extra bit of pressure on both Leicester and Ipswich going into the later kickoff on Boxing Day when they face off against each other. You know, by the time Ipswich next play, which will be against Leicester, Leeds could have brought the gap all the way down to 4 points if they beat North End. So it just goes to show how quickly those leads can be evaporated in a league as competitive as the Championship, even with how absolutely brilliant Ipswich have been all season. But I'd really like to hear from you guys in the comments down below on this one. What did you make of Leeds and their matchup against Ipswich, and who are you currently favouring in the race for the top 2? Do you think Ipswich will rediscover that form in the second half of the season and get themselves back amongst it? Or do you think that statement result from Leeds will be enough to tilt the edges in their favour? Do let me know down below. It's looking like an absolutely fascinating race for automatic promotion in the second half of the season. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. We're back tomorrow with my Championship Week 24 score predictions. Make sure to stick around for that. Other than that, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.